All right, let's tell this story, shall we? So if you've been to this channel before, you'll know this is a very different video than what I typically share. There's no camera hacks or tutorials or anything having to do with Lightroom. This is all about my personal story and how it is that I became to be a full-time food photographer and got to leave the day job. But I want you to know that it didn't come without sacrifice and some major challenges and some crazy hurdles along the way. So I want to share this story. Granted, it's very unique to me and my circumstances, but I want to share this story just as maybe an encouragement to you to show somebody who's been there before, show how I did it, and perhaps give you just a little bit of insight into your own life, into your own path, and where you're going in terms of your creative life. So to take you back in time, take you back to 2014, I was working for the family business in restaurant technology sales. So I was selling computer systems to restaurants. And granted, I was decently good at it and making a good wage. I was able to support our family of 4 at that time. Ryan was full-time stay-at-home dad with our 2 kiddos, who at that time, this was 3 years ago, 4 years ago, much smaller, of course, then. But in December of 2014, I was in my home office. I had an office in our house, and Ryan walks in. Ryan, my husband, who you've probably met here on the channel before, he walks into my office with a black trash bag, and he gives me the trash bag and he says, "Joni, I love you, but I need you to fill this bag with all of the alcohol bottles and booze that you have hidden in this office. I need you to throw it away, get rid of everything, and then I need you to go to therapy." And so just to give you some context why he would even do that is because for the better part of 10 years leading up to that moment, I had struggled with an addiction to alcohol. I'm an alcoholic. And yeah, we'd had conversations plenty of times in the past. He'd known this for many years. Now, not a lot of people around me knew because I'm what you would call a very high-functioning alcoholic. People on the outside would have no idea. But of course, Ryan, living with me and loving me, understanding and knowing that this was something that was tearing me apart and preventing me from really living a full and wonderful life, and also causing just a lot of destruction in our lives. And so why did that moment when he came to me with the black trash bag make such a difference compared to all the other times in the past when, I'd say, yeah, I have a problem, yeah, I should do something about it, and really, really wanting to and really trying but not having success? I can't rightly say, but I do know that my heart was in a moment at that point of complete desperation. As much as I was doing well in my job and I had these 2 beautiful kids, I was completely miserable. I was completely unhappy and depressed with major mood swings. And so at that moment, my heart was open. I was broken enough. And I finally gave in a little bit, because if you know me and if you know my particular area of dysfunction is that I'm a perfectionist. I want everybody to think I'm perfect and that I've got it all together and I want to control everything. And so finally in that moment, for the first time ever, I gave up a little bit of control. And that to me is what made all the difference. And so then at that point, I reached out, got a referral for a therapist who to this day is literally an angel sent from God. Oh, I'm going to try to get through this and not cry. Definitely one of the most influential people in my life who helped me work through all of the demons, all of the hard things, because when it comes to addiction, it's not just an impulse to drink. It's not just, somebody who has an eating disorder isn't eating. There is something underlying that. And whether that is a mental health issue or whether that is, for me, having some deep pain, some deep wounds, some demons, some things that are inside of you that need to be worked through, that need to be faced, that we just sit and we ignore, we pretend they're not there, try to keep a happy face to the world, when in reality those things need to be dealt with if you're ever going to move on and if you're ever going to get through that addiction. And I'm very, very fortunate to have had an amazing therapist and supportive husband who got me through that period. But in the meantime, I'm still working in technology sales and not really loving it, because little clue here is that I'm a very creative person. I need to do things that are artistic and working with my hands, not selling computers. And so about 6 weeks into the process of being in therapy, I am on a sales call to a restaurant, and I'm sitting in the parking lot having just met with them, showed them all the computer system and everything like that. And so had the meeting, came back out to my car, and I'm sitting in the parking lot of this restaurant, and I open up my phone, which if you're in a bad place, just don't open up your phone. And I open up my email and it's nothing but angry customers, upset people, situations that I have to deal with, fires to put out, and I just literally lost it. I had a full-on breakdown in the parking lot of that restaurant, and this wave came over me, like physical wave that I could feel, I could touch, a life-changing moment when I suddenly realized I need to go quit this job. But here's what you gotta realize. I didn't have a photography business at that point. I didn't have any other business. Like, I was a food blogger on the side. I had fun doing art and creative things. I enjoyed cooking, but by no means had I had any sort of side hustle to fall back on. And Ryan was full-time stay-at-home with the kids. So none of this made sense, right? I mean, I've got a mortgage to pay. I got bills to pay. I can't just leave my job. But I absolutely knew in that moment that if I did not leave that job and quickly, that I would not get through the addiction that I had been struggling with. I would not move through into a life of recovery, and the life that really, you ask that 8-year-old version of Joni, you say, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I wasn't living that, and I wouldn't if I didn't quit that job. And so fortunately, I didn't think too long and hard about it. I literally turned on the car, drove straight to the office, went into my dad's office because my dad was the one who owned the family business, who owned this company where I was working. And I said, Dad, I can't work here anymore. I've got to leave this job. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what's my next step, but I just know this can't be it. And again, evidence of the amazing men in my life. My dad, he said to me the most perfect thing he could have said. And he just said, Joni, I love you. We'll figure this out. And we did figure things out. And about 4 weeks later, I transitioned out of that job. And in the meantime, Ryan jumped back into the world of residential real estate because he'd been full-time at home with the kiddos. And we were also very fortunate because at that time, we had just refinanced our house in order to do a remodel on the kitchen. Well, as you might imagine, the remodel didn't happen, but we had enough funds to float us long enough for Ryan to ramp up his business. And that gave me the freedom then to really sit and evaluate what is it that I love to do. And I knew I loved to cook, and I knew I loved to be creative, and I liked taking pictures. So I jumped into the world of food blogging and creating recipes at jonisimon.com. And it seemed like a really weird, random thing, like you go from restaurant technology sales in this job to suddenly you're just a food blogger who's not making any money doing any of this. And I look back and I think, how did I even do that, right? Like, this was so risky. This was so crazy. On paper, none of this made sense. But fortunately, through the process, I figured some things out. I started taking some pictures, and as much fun as I was having creating the recipes, I started getting hired to take pictures of food, and a lot of that was local restaurants, some of that was food brands, and before you knew it, then I had a business on my hands. So a lot of people think, oh, you have to build up your business and then leave your day job. And certainly, if that is your story and that's what works for you, then that's great. But for me, I needed that clean break. I needed to get out of that job that I was unhappy in. I needed to heal myself. I needed to get into recovery in order then to have the clarity and the creativity and the ability to pursue what it is that I really truly love. But the best part is, and what I am beyond happy to be able to say, is that as of today, March 23rd, 2018, I'm officially 3 years sober. And so today is a huge day to celebrate for me, and that's why I had to make this video today. I couldn't make any other video because this is something that is absolutely foundational to who I am and to this business and why I get to do this YouTube channel. And I've been so fortunate to be able to share this story since 2015. I don't think it's for everybody who's in recovery, who's battled addiction, to outwardly share that story, but for me, it has been such a healing process to be able to say, life is not perfect. I'm not perfect. It's okay if you're not too. And then if there's something you're struggling with, that's okay. That's normal. And that you don't have to be bound to that. That if you feel stuck, because I remember in the midst of my addiction over the years, having moments where I thought, there is no way I'm ever going to get out of this. I feel stuck. I don't know how to live life not being addicted. But the truth is, there is a way out. But it comes from love. It comes from dealing with the fear, looking that fear in the eye and saying, you are not going to win this. I am more valuable than that. I am stronger than that. But you do have to ask for help, and you do have to work through the hard stuff, and you have to do things that scare the living daylights out of you. And along those same lines, and looking at the work that I do today and the relationships that I have today, they are so much better. It's so much richer because I'm no longer hiding hiding because I don't have this front that I have to keep up. There's not this mask that I'm wearing showing to the world that I've got it all together, everything's perfect, when in reality there's a lot of pain and sorrow and hurt sitting there behind that person. I'm free of those things. I've got nothing to hide, and I think that translates so powerfully in the artwork that we do, the creativity that we share, the relationships that we have, that the best work and the best things that we can offer are when we are truly ourselves and we're no longer hiding behind anything. So before I go, I have one more story to share with you, and this was actually a story from my therapist that was shared in a counseling session. This was actually the counseling session we had right after I had gone into my dad and quit my job, because at that point he still didn't know I was an alcoholic. He knew that I had some things going on and I was working through some stuff, but he didn't know exactly what all that meant. And so I invited him to the therapy session with me. We're sitting in front of the therapist, and she said, okay, go for it, Joni. And I told my dad, my dad is the most amazing man in the world, but I was his little girl, his perfect daughter who could do no wrong, who was completely limitless. And that I sat there and I told him, and I said, Dad, I'm an alcoholic. And then at that moment, this wave of fear rushed over me, and the therapist could tell, and she said, Joni, what's going on for you right now? And I said, I have now told my father that I'm an alcoholic, and now I feel like he's going to be worried about me wherever I go. Is Joni out drinking? What's she doing? That it's going to occupy his mind and he's going to worry about me. And so now I feel regretful that I've shared that with him. And she said, Joni, I've got a story for you. The story of the flapping chicken. This is going to really help you. And so as the story goes, your life, everybody's life is like a house, and your house has a yard, and you have your neighbor, your friends, your family, whoever it might be, are your neighbors, and they have their own house with their own yard, and there's a fence between your two houses. And all of a sudden one day you walk out your front door and you realize that over in your neighbor's yard there is a chicken, and it is flapping. And if you have ever seen chickens in real life, when they get to flapping, their wings are going, it's kicking up dirt and dust and chicken poop and just crap going everywhere. Well, then at that moment, as the neighbor, you have two options. First option is to open up your gate that separates your two yards and go over and try to help the chicken, calm it down, keep it from flapping. But the problem is you do that, and then suddenly all that stuff that chicken is kicking up is ending up in your yard because you opened up your gate. The second option is that you keep your gate closed and you say, hey neighbor, oh my gosh, I am so sorry about your flapping chicken, offer words of support, and you encourage them. But at the end of the day, it's their chicken, it's their yard. It is not your problem to solve. And that was just absolutely monumental for me, that even if my dad is worried about me and what I'm doing, that's not my problem. That's on him. And then if my friend is upset about such and such situation, that yes, I can be supportive and I can be a good friend and I can be there for them. But I'm not gonna take that stress onto me because that is their chicken. And so what you gotta do in those situations where somebody's freaking out and wants to put that on your plate and have you save the world for them, you say, I'm sorry, that's not my chicken. So when I suddenly realized that I was not responsibility for everybody else's happiness and everybody else's worries, suddenly I was freed up to work on my own, take care of my own yard. And that is when finally sobriety seemed possible, and I felt completely released from the responsibility of other people. And so with that, thank you so much. If you have made it this far into the video, thank you so much for watching and being supportive of my journey. And I'm just so thankful for this YouTube audience because it has been an incredible experience, completely encouraging and life-giving in order to be able to share something that I am so passionate about and connect with other creative people across the globe. It is an honor. It is something that I am happy to do, and I look forward to many, many more years here on YouTube, as well as many, many more years of sobriety. So with that, I give you all my love. I give you all my thanks, and you have a wonderful day, okay? Bye.